We start in Chicago, where former President Barack Obama is expected to speak on the second day of the Democratic National Convention. The event began with a symbolic roll call of the delegations from each state pledging their support for Kamala Harris's bid for the presidency. The highlights are expected to be speeches from former First Lady Michelle Obama and former President Barack Obama, whose support for Harris was seen as crucial for her nomination. And let's speak now to DW correspondent Janelle Dumalaon, who's at the convention in Chicago. Janelle, quite an eventful convention so far. Tell us what's been happening in Chicago.
Indeed. So the mood here, very high energy, very high spirits. Everyone very enthused about the proceedings happening on the floor below me and on the stage behind me. Basically, we have now just been witnessing the roll call. That is, of course, when the delegates of every state cast their votes for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And it has been like a mini tour through the country. This is America. Everyone is very proud of the state where they're from, and that has really come through in this particular part of the event. But of course, we know that there is still a lot to come this evening. We're expected to hear from Kamala Harris herself. She will be live streaming remarks from a campaign event in Milwaukee. We'll be hearing from Bernie Sanders. We'll be hearing from the governor of Illinois, who of course is hosting this event, J.B. Pritzker, and of course from Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff. Not to forget the headliners of today's evening, Barack and Michelle Obama. Now, it's important to note that this convention isn't just for the party faithful. They already have the votes of the people here, but it's also important for them to put on a show for the millions of voters watching from home. And there are already broadcasting figures to say that the first night of the DNC already garnered 20 million viewers, and with that, already more than the first 3 nights of the RNC. Now, we don't know how much that will translate into actual support for Harris at the ballot box come election day, but it is important that at this particular event, people are watching and eyeballs are on it at a very crucial time.
And Janelle, you did mention, of course, the evening's most anticipated speaker, former President Barack Obama. What makes this speech so important for Harris?
You know, it's very interesting to see what he will say. Barack Obama, of course, widely considered his party's most gifted speaker. As such, he really would have been given a role, perhaps a message to deliver of some rhetorical complexity, with the view that he would be the one able to deliver it. Now he's expected to explain why Harris is the correct leader for this time, and in doing that, he has to be able to walk the line between saying that Harris's time in the current administration has prepared her for this role, while highlighting Harris as a potential president distinct from President Biden, as someone able to deliver on her own agenda. He's also expected to talk about the dangers of letting Donald Trump back into office. Now, this is a speech that he has reportedly been working on for 3 months, a speech that he has had to tweak, obviously, in the last few weeks to reflect the change in candidate. But nevertheless, the expectations for this speech in terms of content, in terms of delivery, well, they're simply sky high.
Well, we'll be watching for that later on in the night. DW correspondent Janelle Dumalaon in Chicago, thank you so much for your reporting.
Well, joining us now from Chicago is political strategist Julius van der Laar. He worked on Barack Obama's campaigns in 2008 and 2012 and is closely following the DNC, where the former president and his wife are speaking tonight. Welcome back to DW, Julius. Now, the Obama's endorsement of Harris back in July was key to her securing the Democratic presidential nomination. Some even say it helped avoid an ugly internal fight. What can we expect from them tonight?
Well, Barack Obama continues to have great weight within the Democratic Party. He's one of the most popular figures, of course. And so it was very helpful for Kamala Harris to have his support, also Michelle Obama's support. I anticipate that Barack Obama is going to give a speech tonight, of course, praising Harris, talking about their relationship, talking about the type of leadership that people can expect from her. But I think he's also capable of making an argument. If you compare the current situation 2024 with the situation in 2012 when Barack Obama was running for re-election. Both now and then, the economy was not where the president or Kamala Harris was hoping the economy would be. So I think he's able to make an argument to people to say, look, I've been there. I know what it takes to restructure our economy, to help make sure that middle-class Americans have all the necessary things that they need. And so I think that is particularly helpful for Kamala Harris in order to get that endorsement from Barack Obama and have the case that she is capable of putting the economy back on the right track.
Yeah, and from what we've seen from the Harris camp, it's a very energetic, a very optimistic campaign. Is she modeling her campaign in a way after Obama's?
I think she should. And that's not me saying because Barack Obama ran a particularly successful campaign or was part of it. But I think Barack Obama back then made a key argument to American voters. And he said, who is fighting for you? Is it me, who's always been part of the middle class and helping people to get into the middle class? Or is it Mitt Romney, this was back in 2012, who is a millionaire and who's going to be fighting for the millionaire class? And I think that's the same argument that Kamala Harris should be making as the economy has not been recovering as quickly as they had hoped. She can make the argument that she is part of the middle class. She's always helped people get into the middle class. The same is, of course, true for Scranton Joe Biden. And so I think she can make the argument that Donald Trump is fighting for millionaires and billionaires like him. You can make the argument around the tax cuts that Donald Trump has proposed. And so that is, I think, the playbook or the page from the playbook that Kamala Harris should copy back from the Obama days in 2012.
Yeah, we saw that argument made on her behalf by AOC last night, actually. And I wanted to shift and look at pro-Palestinian groups that are asking Harris to support a permanent ceasefire and an arms embargo. There were huge protests outside of the DNC yesterday. Now, does she have any plans to propose or offer any substantial changes or tweaks, at least, to the U.S. policy in the Middle East as it stands today?
I was walking around the convention venue yesterday, and protesters were out in full swing. I think you already had it in your piece. Now, I think for some of the protesters, the question is still, are they going to support Kamala Harris? There are several uncommitted delegates who are supposed to be voicing their opinion. Whether they're going to do that in the conference hall or the convention hall or not is still, still to be seen. But I think Kamala Harris has to be very careful and sort of walk a tight line. Is she going to give in and sort of tell people what they want to hear? I don't think she should do that. I don't think she's going to do that. I think the line that Democrats are going to walk is to say she is particularly empathetic, maybe more empathetic as Joe Biden is on that issue. She's going to listen, but in the end, she will have to do what is necessary in order to win this election. I think the case that she's going to make is, look, a Trump presidency would be way worse for people over in the Middle East than my presidency would be. So I don't think she should give in. I don't think it's a smart political strategy. And I think the Democrats need to do everything to make sure that whatever we're seeing on the left-hand side right now is not escalating, because that could have tremendous ripples in this convention. The narrative is that the convention under the Democratic leadership has gone rogue and out of control.
You mentioned Donald Trump there briefly. He will be campaigning in a town in Michigan with historic links to white extremism. What message is he sending with that?
Well, with Donald Trump, I'm not quite sure what message he's sending. I think there is a message that he could be sending that would tremendously help his campaign, which is, of course, the economy is not on the right track. There are polls out that say, overall, the country is on the wrong track. Almost 70–80% of Americans say the country's on the wrong track. And on the other hand, of course, the economy is still not delivering. As soon as he's talking about the economy, I think his polls are going to continue to go up. But he can't seem to help himself because he's calling Kamala Harris names. He's making suggestions that he's better looking than Kamala Harris. I think that might be something that energizes the room that he's speaking in right now, but I don't think that's particularly helpful to swing voters. Right now, if you look at the polling, people still have a 10-point favorability rating for Trump when it comes to handling the economy or inflation. I think that's the sweet spot for Donald Trump. If he continues to hammer that message, I think he very well might win this election. But again, if he veers off, he goes back to the greatest hits of 2016 and 2020, calling her crooked Kamala, or saying that the election was rigged back in 2020, I think he's losing those important swing voters.
As a political strategist, Julius van der Laar, thank you so much.